and I just wanted, by way of introduction, to just say a word, not about the event that's preoccupied you all day, but perhaps something that's very linked to it, the G20 summit, which has been very preoccupying for at least all of us in London, and a number of African leaders have become very, very involved in the summit preparations. Prime Minister Meles is going to lead a NEPAD, an AU-based delegation to take a seat at the summit on behalf of Africa, in addition, therefore, to South Africa, which is a formal member of the G20. And this has given us the opportunity to work with many of you in the room, and we had a very good meeting just a week ago, or 10 days ago now, of African leaders here. In addition to Prime Minister Meles, we had Prime Minister Raila Odinga from Kenya. We had President Khama from Botswana, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf from Liberia, and then a whole group, and Trevor Manuel from South Africa, leading the so-called Committee of 10 of finance ministers and central bank governors, representing a group of both Francophone as well as Anglophone countries. And out of this has come some really solid proposals for this G20 summit. And actually at the last minute we've got, in terms of the summit itself, one last reinforcement, who was also at the original meeting, which was Youssef Boutros-Ghali, the finance minister of Egypt, who will be part of the IMF delegation. So we now feel we've got a strong team representing representing Africa. And I should add that when I say it's a NEPAD AU team, Jean Ping will be there with Prime Minister Meles. But beyond the representation, what's even more important is they've got a strong agenda of what it will take to keep Africa on track for the MDGs through this economic crisis. And looking at the ambassador of Tanzania, I realized I left out one very important attendee at the meeting 10 days ago, President Kekwe of Tanzania. And what we sought to do is construct a set of measures, from pledges to keep aid levels at the Gleneagles level to, or commitments made at Gleneagles, to making sure that trade restrictions don't go up. But most critically, we've got a series of things related primarily to the World Bank and the IMF and the African Development Bank to give them the capacity to both target poverty created by this crisis with grants and lending, but also to deal with trade finance and to try and do something in terms of counter-cyclical infrastructure lending to try and create jobs and growth as much as possible. And so it's a very Africa-tailored package that we hope to put through at the London Summit next week. But in a way, it's a little bit, if you like, where the ambulance has come along because the patients had this sort of unexpected crisis, which is a contagion effect from a disease that did not start in Africa. And that is not the first time, as we're all aware, that Africa is picking up problems that have started elsewhere. But, and frankly, a few months ago, it looked even as though Africa might escape the worst of it. But as we know, when it moved from the financial sector to the real economy and to collapsing commodity exports and then to exports more broadly, Africa has been heavily affected by the crisis. And so the need to do something about that has been very much in the front of our minds in recent weeks. But whatever we are able to do next week to sort of prop things up and keep things on course, the real long-term strategic play here is achieving the MDGs and really making sure that our partnership between Europe and Africa to achieve that stays on track and that we're not thrown off course by a crisis like this. So the work you've all been doing today on health and education is absolutely critical, and the work your colleagues are doing on food security in Pretoria yesterday is equally important. So we've got two other colleagues who are going to speak now, and the first is the chair of today's meeting, our colleague, the Director General for Africa from the Tunisian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Samawi. So if I may ask you, Ambassador, to speak, and then we'll have one more intervention before allowing us to go back